Dear friends, welcome to another episode of The Informant. In today's video, we're diving into a topic that has gripped the minds of many. What would happen to the world after a nuclear war? Before we get started, make sure you're subscribed to the channel and have notifications turned on. Trust me, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Lately, the fear of a nuclear confrontation has been on the rise globally. President Joe Biden has approved a new nuclear strategy aimed at addressing potential nuclear conflicts with Russia, China, and North Korea. This new approach reflects growing concerns over China's expanding nuclear arsenal and Russia's nuclear threats in the Ukraine war. The policy, known as the Nuclear Employment Guidance, takes into account China's rapid nuclear expansion, which could rival that of the US and Russia by 2030. Despite this, Russia, with its approximately 4,000 warheads, remains the primary focus of American strategy. The U.S. stance indicates a greater willingness to expand its nuclear arsenal, especially in light of the strengthening alliance between China and Russia, who have recently conducted joint military exercises. In addition, there's Russia, which invaded Ukraine with a massive force of 200,000 soldiers. On the other side, nearly 24 countries led by the United States are actively providing material, financial, and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. Since the onset of the Ukraine invasion, Russian leadership has issued threats involving the use of nuclear weapons. Since 2022, Russia has conducted multiple military exercises involving the simulated use of nuclear missiles. In the first 6 months of 2022 alone, Russia carried out 3 major exercises involving nuclear missiles, a record compared to the previous 3 years, when only 2 such exercises were conducted. With Finland and Sweden moving closer to NATO, Russia has even threatened to deploy nuclear weapons in the Arctic and the Baltic regions. Other nuclear powers have also escalated their rhetoric. North Korea, for instance, conducted more missile tests in the first few months of 2022 than in all of 2021. And has announced plans to expand its nuclear arsenal, which currently consists of around 40 to 50 warheads. China, with an estimated 400 warheads, is also in the process of expansion, with projections suggesting it could reach around 1,000 warheads by the end of the decade. India and Pakistan, both nuclear powers, maintain perpetually tense relations, with frequent clashes in the Kashmir region. The United States has announced the development of new tactical nuclear warheads, which, despite having lower destructive power, can be launched by a wider variety of means, including artillery. All of this increases the risks of a large-scale nuclear confrontation in the world. If such a scenario were to occur, how would our planet be affected? According to scientific studies, the impact on the planet would depend directly on the number of detonations, the average power of these detonations, and the locations targeted. There are numerous scenarios to consider, so we will limit ourselves to 3 scenarios involving small, medium, and large-scale nuclear wars. In the case of a small-scale nuclear war, geographically limited and involving smaller nuclear powers such as India and Pakistan, we would likely see the detonation of a few dozen warheads with yields around 50 kilotons. The local human impact would be devastating, especially if these bombs were detonated in major metropolises like Mumbai, with its 12 million inhabitants. The global impact would also be severe. A simulation involving 20 detonations of 50 kiloton warheads revealed that this would be enough to contaminate agricultural soils, not only in India and Pakistan but throughout Southeast Asia. Central China would be protected by the Himalayas, but the eastern regions would be hit by winds crossing East Asia, affecting important agricultural and industrial areas. The Middle East and Africa would also be strongly affected. Beyond the immediate casualties, which could number in the millions, the destruction of agricultural areas in China, Southeast Asia, and Africa would trigger a global famine capable of causing the deaths of up to 1 billion people within the first 12 months after the war. In a scenario of confrontation between major nuclear powers, with more localized targets in Europe, such as industrial centers and ports, the number of immediate casualties would be smaller, as the major European metropolises would not be directly hit. However, radioactive dust would spread across Europe's agricultural fields, including in Russia and Ukraine, regions that account for more than half of the world's grain production, such as wheat. With the destruction of these fields and contamination spreading to Africa and even the United States, global famine could kill up to 2 billion people in the following 12 months. Finally, in a large-scale nuclear war scenario, involving the detonation of hundreds or even thousands of warheads with yields greater than 100 kilotons, the result would be even more devastating. Studies indicate that this would lead to a drop of up to 8 degrees in global temperature, ushering in a new ice age. Soil contamination worldwide would reduce the human population to just 10% of its current level, or about 750 to 800 million people, similar to the population level at the end of the 18th century. The difference would be that in this case, entire countries would only become habitable again after several centuries, with some areas remaining off-limits for thousands of years. These studies serve to show that even a small-scale nuclear war, in terms of the number of warheads, would have a catastrophic impact on the planet, resulting in damage that would affect the population on a global scale. If you value independent journalism and want to support our work, consider buying us a coffee through the QR code on the screen. Your contribution is essential for us to continue bringing quality analysis and information. Stay tuned for more updates, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for the latest analyses and insights on the world's most urgent geopolitical issues.